Films are created to reach a wide audience, and with one's success comes its social impact. How the audience interprets the subject matter can also influence the film's theme, and further, can influence how the film grows with time and relevance to modern society. In 1968, George A. Romero's The Night of the Living Dead was released, introducing an abundance of new concepts for the horror industry, a prevalent one being starring the first black lead, Dwayne Jones, in the horror genre in Hollywood at the time. The development of his character, Ben, throughout the film impacted various audiences as he was able to inspire black minorities from his success as an actor, alongside showcasing intriguing power dynamics between him and the supporting cast emphasized the film's individuality compared to opposing films in the late 60s. The abundance of white actors and actresses in films is evident in Hollywood. Diversity is not often presented in such a natural method. It is often communicated in a forced attempt to create a facade of a film being accepting/diverse. For example, token race characters. Night of the Living Dead was the first horror movie in Hollywood film to include a black lead. Films are created to reach a wide audience of all different perspectives, and by choosing Dwayne Jones as their lead in the film, with intention or not, affected the black community because they were finally receiving representation in a field where there was little to none. Night of the Living Dead's release grabbed the audience's attention from its gory scenes to the unexpected ending of the film. As time progressed, focus on the film and how it was perceived by the general audience shifted, as did the political climate of the US. The actual story and unique traits of the movie that once brought its success were still relevant, but the casting and further the black lead, Ben, played by Dwayne Jones, grew in significance. From a riveting, terrifying horror film to being labeled as the first horror movie in Hollywood to star a black lead, as the push for diversity in mainstream media, especially blockbuster films, came the pressure to star more people of color. Night being released during the middle of the civil rights movement and the genre it was being put into, it made it even more assumable to audiences that George A. Romero casted Dwayne to attempt a liberal action at colorblind casting. However, Romero stated himself, "A friend and I began writing a script, but we didn't have it nearly completed when we started shooting. We cast around for people. That is kind of a random experience too. There wasn't much to draw on in Pittsburgh except a friend of ours, Dwayne Jones, who was the black actor who played Ben in the picture. We had no preconceived notion as to the role being a black role. Dwayne came in, he looked right, he read well, so we used him. We never took any further note of it. It's not mentioned in the script at all, although I know we are getting a lot of press comment over that fact." Odia Judith, the actress who played Barbara, the second lead, similarly states in an interview with the 5 Count.
Dwayne Jones, who played Ben, was the best person who auditioned.
The public found the film more attractive for its diversity and progressive impact during the political climate of the late 60s despite this. A few months prior to the release of the film, tension built up and stirred between the people of America. 1968 marked not only the release of Night, but the assassinations of Martin Luther King Jr. and Robert Kennedy, causing the film to have more impact than previously intended, striking audiences with a truthful depiction of their suddenly dehumanized society.
The fact that we had a black man and a white woman wasn't thought about, well, let's do this because it's unusual and it's right in the midst of civil rights. I don't think that thought ever crossed anybody's mind.
The diversity similarly followed suit with the presentation of the film and relevance in showtimes, as Dwayne's importance in the story wasn't hidden whatsoever. Dwayne himself may not have intended on acting a certain way to show dominance or power over the supporting white cast, but still had an impact on black audiences.
I have sat at these people's dinner table. We have gone to the theater together. I mean, we go shopping for things together. We go to boot sales and Botticelli's together. And all of a sudden, they knew that I was in this movie. And somehow they wanted to readjust something or talk about it. And I just looked at them and went right on. You know, they have to work that out. I don't allow anybody to lay on me that I have to work out.
As more modern movies come out with more legitimate, diverse casts that embrace culture and representation, more minorities feel empowered in this overall push for this utopia. The significance of Night is the broken stereotypes that we often see in modern films today, as people of color are diminished by dying quite early in the film or are rarely mentioned supporting characters, coming as a surprise to many modern viewers seeing Dwayne outlive the rest of the cast, leading to his death at the end of the film. The character we most identified with remained the constant trait of the film. No matter what Ben looked like, we still saw ourselves in his shoes. Further, how hopeless his situation was in the end. Seeing someone who looks like you instills a sense of comfort, relatability, and an empathetic sort of mindset. We instantly connect with the person, similar to a child seeing someone of their race or gender on the TV and identifying with them. Dwayne's importance as an actor massively helped the film, as he portrayed Ben in the best possible way for a protagonist fighting against people in an apocalypse. Alongside, it motivates those audiences by seeing someone who looks like them, and the relatability inspires them that they are just as important as any other person, and should not be diminished because of the color of their skin. This was prevalent during the late 60s, and the civil rights movement peaked and continued to march forward with each small step to diversity and stopping systematic racism. Each small step towards that utopia comes with setbacks, as society gets more complex and the roots of racism grow deeper and deeper into all industries, communities, and people. Films have their impact as well, reaching the wide general audience. The importance of a film, however, is how artistic they can be. Showing the ins and outs of communities and their struggles, this can expand the viewer's perspective and the way that they treat minorities from there. Not in a sympathetic or pity way, but more of an understanding of what they have gone through, and further how the viewer can help them reach a state of stability, socially, economically, and politically. Multiple modern films have featured Black leads or entire Black casts, including but not limited to Moonlight, Get Out, Sorry to Bother You, and Hidden Figures. All of them feature Black leads or entire Black casts, but in an abstract/interpretive way to feature their struggles as African Americans in America. Night set in motion how the horror industry in Hollywood should represent people of color, showing how impactful one actor can be on an audience. Dwayne's role as Ben truly changed aspects of the horror industry. The representation of a diverse cast, riveting power dynamics between characters, and a bittersweet tragic ending impacted the horror industry and further rippled out to blockbuster films and more mainstream media, introducing the community to the entertainment industry, or at least finding comfort in knowing that the one fantasized integrated utopia of a society we seek is slowly evolving into a reality.